Money may be tight, but we need to find some of it to make sure that we save up for our little ones. Thembeka Khumalo, Senior Client Experience Manager at Satrix, joins me now for this conversation. Thembeka, where do we even start?
Good evening, Matteo, and thank you for having me on the show tonight. I think, when it comes to the success of our children as parents, we really are invested, and we are, that's why we're willing to go the extra mile to make sure that our children, whether it's they do well at school or we invest in tutoring for the parents who can afford that. I feel that investing in their financial futures is part of that process of making sure and ensuring the future success of our children. So I think it is important to start basically as soon as possible. I would even go as far as saying as soon as they are born. Starting early does help to sort of maximize those overall returns, and help the children build an investment portfolio over time. So yeah, I think it's important to start as soon as the children are born.
Well, as adults, like when we get into investing, you'll need FICA documents and all sorts of documentation. But when you're getting into investing for your child, what would you need then to get them signed up? Or are you the sole responsible adult that looks over the investment until they grow to about 18 then?
So when you invest for a child, I think it's very important to know that you're opening an account on behalf of your minor child. Not that it's your account, it's actually your minor child's account, and you're merely going through the process because they are not of legal age to enter into a contract or to sign any agreements. So I think very important, first off, to just note that when parents open accounts for their children, it's merely you're serving as an in-betweener until the child is able to sign documents in their own capacity. The process involved in most financial institutions, FICA documents will be required. In the case of minors, it would obviously be a birth certificate, and with adults, it would be their ID, copy of ID, and proof of residence. In our case at Satrix, it's important that we get it's all online. So on Satrix Now, the parent would have to register for an account on Satrix Now. And once their account is registered and FICA verified, which is a very quick process, which is done online, all online, the parent is then able to go ahead and open an account for their minor child through their profile. So we've sort of made sure that the process is quite seamless and easy for parents, which also encourages the parent to, if they haven't started an investment journey for themselves, they can also get going with their investment journey. But obviously the focus being the child in this instance. So it's quite easy in that sense.
What are the common misconceptions when it comes to investing for your child? I can imagine one being that it's too expensive to get in and you'd be paying this huge amount for all these years. What are the other misconceptions about, getting an investment product for your child?
Yeah, I think it's more or less the same misconceptions that we have, about investing in general, Matteo, which is that, investing, it requires large sums of money for an individual to start, and that is obviously not the case. There's lots of investment platforms now that have sort of lowered or broken down those barriers and ensured that there are no minimums. Like on the Satrix platform, for example, there are no minimums. You can actually start investing from as little as 10 Rand. So that is the one big misconception that, I especially in the economy that we live in today, times are really hard. So the idea of starting an investment, people tend to think, well, where do I even start when there's really not enough cash to go around? But, as I say, with no minimums, having platforms with no minimums makes it easy for you to actually get started on that journey to investing. And I think it's really important to, start as early as possible, as I mentioned, because with children, they have the benefit of time on their side. So, you have children. I remember when I first had children, I thought, okay, I've got time. I mean, I'm still so busy with other things than just getting into motherhood. But, time flies. I mean, my littles are now 3 years old, and I could have easily kept thinking, I've got time, I will get started. But I think the longer you wait to get started, you actually rob your children of benefiting and harnessing the power of compound interest. So when they get started early in the investment journey, it means that they have a lot of time to afford to get into maybe riskier assets. And by riskier assets, we're talking about investing in things like the stock market. So I'm not particularly a fan of stock picking. So when I talk about stock market investing, there are other ways in which one can invest in the stock market, for example, through exchange traded funds. So I tend to go to exchange traded funds as an investment in the stock market. And starting early means that they've obviously got the benefit of that time for the compound interest to kick in, and for them to be able to weather the storms in terms of fluctuations that will come about in their investment journey as a result of them being invested in the stock market.
How important
I think it's important to go ahead.
I was going to ask how important the financial literacy of the parent is, because, if a parent is not confident about the way they manage their own money, I would, imagine venturing into saving up money for their children would be an experience they don't want to get into. A lot of people think that when you speak to an investment professional, you're going to get judged. Why don't you know about money? Why don't you know about investing? And then they end up not even approaching these professionals. But how easy can it be to get into one of these products?
I think so. The industry has done quite a lot of work into ensuring that the investor education is out there, in terms of teaching people, number one, breaking the barriers down and the misconceptions that investing is only for the wealthy. Investing is intimidating, and I think let's not kid ourselves. It can be intimidating,
definitely,
for those who haven't started. But I think these days the amount and wealth of information that can be found on various platforms, and Satrix being one, and obviously many of our partners as well, Easy Equities, have done a lot of work in making sure that the knowledge is out there, demystifying this concept of investing. So I think it is important, as you say, that the parents themselves need to be quite comfortable with the idea and the concept of investing. And I think if you take some time and just visit these platforms and read up a little bit, I think you'll get to realize that it's not as difficult as it used to be in the past. I think in the past it really was the case that it is for the wealthy, it is for an elite few, but certainly not the case today. So I think it is important that the parents themselves maybe do a bit of reading up and getting to understand what it is they're investing in, what platforms are out there, what funds are available for them to invest in, and understand obviously the risks behind the investment choices that they make. And again, I will emphasize that a lot of work has been done in industry. Satrix has, a page called Investing 101, where you can go as a novice, a first-time investor, to read up on what it is to invest, where to start, how to open an account, and so forth. But I think the important thing is to for investors to know, and for parents to know, that once you start, and I think that's the first step, is that you need to just start. But once you have started, then you sort of just sit tight and not to panic when obviously market volatility will come. It will come, but to not panic and to stay the course. As I mentioned before, for me, I think it's one thing that I'm very passionate about, investing for mine.
446 05.
All right, I think we might have lost Thembeka Khumalo. They will try get her back on the line. She's, of course, talking about investing for your child and how easy it can be, saying that, some of these apps are on our mobile phones. I know a lot of us live on our phones.
You still there?
And you can download those and play around the investment calculators to see if you put away 100 Rand for 20 years, what that would mean for your child and how you can even educate yourself, while you're learning, while you're getting into that learning process. You can also start saving up for your child from as early as when they are born. Of course, this can go into education, into gap years, into a lot of innovations, or maybe if your child becomes an entrepreneur later in life, you would have that money saved up. And I think we've got it back on the line. Thembeka, you were talking about how easy it can be. Can you just take us through some of the calculators our listeners can go through and just play around to see the benefits of having such a long investment like investing for your child?
Certainly, Matteo. I just wanted, before I start, I want to give you an example. So when I remember when I got a job after matric, I think it was varsity. I got a job, and this was around to the year 2001. If I'm not mistaken, a Satrix 40 fund was in the region of 8 Rand. I'm going to say 8 Rand on average for a unit. And I had earned, I think, 5,000 Rand back then. And if I look today, I mean, I don't know what I spent that money on. I must have gone shopping, for clothes or something like that. As we all do, exactly. But if I look today, and had I invested that 5,000 Rand in a Satrix Top 40, which was worth 8 Rand back then, around in the region of 8 Rand, today that investment would be worth 53,745 at today's current price on the Top 40. So that's just to illustrate two things. I think the importance of staying the course, number one, and the importance of time, and that's why it's so important for kids and for children, or rather for parents, to start early the investment journey for their children, because they've got that benefit of time. And this example that I'm making it doesn't include the dividends earned over time. It's purely just the growth of that 5,000. Had I taken it and just put it in a Satrix Top 40 and did nothing with it, and revisited it today, that's the power of the compound interest as well as time in the market.
So, I think you're right, Thembeka. A lot of people will look at investing and think it's about timing the markets and getting in at the right time, but it's also having time in the market and how long you have these investment products. But let's look at now how parents can involve their children. You start this investment plan for them when they're born. They're now at an age that they can start to get into the understanding of money. And how can you introduce them to that conversation?
I think it's a very important idea that you introduce your children from as early as possible, where you can maybe start doing things like kid-entrepreneurial activities, having chores around the house, for example, where they can then earn money that can be contributed towards their investment accounts. Very important to do that, and then also just to help them, and I think introduce them and show them what their investment account is doing. I think once they're of age, obviously, I mean, you're not going to try and show it to a 5-year-old, but once they start, counting at school and learning and being able to comprehend, it would be a good idea to show them what their investment account is doing. I think that helps them understand the investing landscape. They can also then develop a positive saving and investing habits from the onset and understand the importance of it. So it is absolutely important that we expose them. We not only invest for them, but also actually expose them and teach them and entrench that culture of investing and staying the course, so that they it becomes part of human nature for them.
Well, if you've just joined the Money Show, we're talking about investment. It's our investment school feature, rather. Investing for your child is our topic tonight. Thembeka Khumalo, Senior Client Experience Manager at Satrix, will pick up this conversation after this. Well, if you've just joined us, we are doing our investment school feature on this Tuesday evening, talking about investing for your child. Thembeka Khumalo, Senior Client Experience Manager at Satrix and an expert of saving your money for your children, is joining us for this particular conversation. She is our headmaster tonight. We've got a question from Jane in Pretoria. One of our listeners has called in wanting to know whether there are any tax benefits for saving for your child. So, Thembeka, I don't know if you can help us with that part of the investing for your child feature.
Sure, Otero. So I don't think there are tax benefits for the parent per se, but there are tax-free savings accounts that a parent could consider opening for a child, because that is an option as well. With the tax-free savings account, basically, one can invest up to 36,000 Rand every tax year. And that investment will not earn any capital gains tax or dividends tax. So again, the benefit is actually more for the minor than for the parent. If anything, the parent actually could pay tax on the child's account. So if, for example, there's capital gains on the child's account, and if there are withdrawals made from that investment account, then that capital gain would be passed on to the parent and needs to be included in the parent's capital gains calculation. However, there is, in South Africa, we've got something called donations tax, and you can donate up to 100,000 Rand tax-free. So as a parent, if you were donating to your minor child, and you donate, up to 100,000 Rand, that would be free of tax. But I just want to disclaim, Mateo, I'm not a legal practitioner or a tax practitioner.
Of course.
So I would urge everyone to sort of consult their tax practitioners.
Jane, welcome to the Money Show. I know you wanted to ask around the tax write-offs while you save for your kids. I just wanted to know, how many children do you have, and do you have money set aside for them already?
Evening. Well, I've got two little kids with me. But, the ladies answered quite nicely already about the donations tax and as well as the tax-free account. But your tax-free account, the problem is that that's 36,000 a year, but for a family that can't afford 36,000 a year, what she's saying essentially that there isn't a tax write-off. So, for example, if you paid school fees, and I understand what the lady says about the disclaimer, if you paid school fees to a registered school, again, is there any tax write-off for the parent?
All right, Thembeka, I know
saving for investment later for the kids is important, but also by paying school fees, you're also investing in their education.
Got you. That was Jane in Pretoria, really looking for those tax benefits around saving for your child, Thembeka. But I know he says he understands the disclaimer. But what are some of the other benefits that parents can look forward to when they put away money for their children?
So I just wanted to sort of, and I'm not sure if I heard Jane correctly with regards to the tax-free savings account. And maybe let me clarify my point. It is up to 36,000 that you can invest towards or for your child in a tax-free savings account. It doesn't have to be the 36,000 in full. So if you would say, for example, you want to open a tax-free savings account and you want to save for your child's education and future, you absolutely can use that tax-free savings account. And that would then obviously mean, that account would not incur any tax. But in terms of tax benefit for the parent directly, there's none that I know of, Mateo. Yeah.
And then in a situation where, as a parent, and of course this would be tragic, the parent passes away, the children is now under the guideship of a mentor or another family member, would someone else be able to open an account for your children?
So unfortunately, it's only parents and legal guardians who can open investment accounts for minors. However, extended family members and friends can fund a child's account. So at Satrix, we've got this wonderful thing called Satrix vouchers that I use quite frequently for baby showers and the like, where if my daughters are having their birthday, instead of a toy, for example, they would get a Satrix voucher from an aunt, a friend, etc. So absolutely, extended family members and non-guardians and non-parents can fund the child's account. However, they are not able to actually open the actual investment account on behalf of the children.
Well, that was our headmaster, Thembeka Khumalo, the Senior Client Experience Manager at Satrix, taking us through investing for your child. Quite a key conversation. I'm sure you picked up a lot of germs from her tonight.
Paving the way for universal healthcare in the country. This comes after members of Parliament